Welcome back to the Sporting Club Ireland podcast. Today I'm joined by Michael Meehan and our guest is Rob Henderson. Rob Henderson is line 704. He won 29 caps for Ireland and 3 for the British and Irish Lions. He represented a number of clubs, but most notably Wasps and Munster, where he won the Heineken Cup. Once described as being like a buffalo on a stampede against Scotland in 1999, Rob straddled both the amateur and professional eras, and by all accounts was one of the greatest characters the game has ever produced. Since hanging up his boots, he's built a very successful career in business, and today is the founder of Avesco. Rob, it's an absolute pleasure. Welcome to the Sporting Club Ireland for the second time in 2 days.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, Mike, and Mark, and great to see you, Michael. And I think we started yesterday by saying that maybe 25 years ago I was a buffalo on stampede. Now I'm like a potato on a couch.
Very good. He's already giving me a nice compliment about my lid. So fantastic. Anyways, Rob, we're going back over some ground we covered yesterday, but we couldn't really hear each other. So, look, before we get into the rugby, what was young Rob Henderson actually like? What was home life like, and when did it become apparent that rugby was a real possibility as a career for you?
Lots to unpack there in a couple of sentences. Obviously, my mother's Irish. My father is Scots-Indian. Unfortunately, my parents split when I was 6 or 7. My dad had a problem with his feet. He couldn't keep them out of other women's houses. So brought up in an Irish Catholic household by young Elizabeth, Monaghan's finest. And it was always sporty, like most kids, running around, fluting around with friends and basically playing any sport that's humanly possible. So I played soccer. I used to think I was the next white Pele, which clearly I wasn't. I played a little bit of cricket. I ran a lot, basically to keep away from my older brother, and fell into rugby by complete accident. And I'm delighted I did. And it's given me a lot of opportunity, a lot of friendships, and a lot of memories along the way.
That's the typical story. Running away from an older brother. I can attest to that. Rob. And I suppose, like, back then, give us a sense of what was the rugby scene like? You know, as a young teenager coming through. Obviously, it's certainly in the amateur era. And like, what was the routine? Like, at what stage did it get really serious for you? And when did you realize that you have something to offer here at quite a high level?
I'll be honest with you, Michael. I didn't really play. I didn't at school. So as a young teenager, I was more into soccer, more into athletics, etc.
Okay.
I went to a rugby playing school, and they nearly kicked me out because I refused to play rugby. I was a roundy bally. I wanted to wear hair gel and dive around the place. Actually, have a wonderful lid like Mark's wearing today. I mean, that is Champions League hairstyle right there for you.
Yes.
And it was when I left school, I went down to watch a friend of mine. So I'd been introduced to it at school by a few coaches, and then when I left school, I went down to watch a friend of mine play, and they were one short, and they said, "Do you give it a go?" I was standing on this is gospel truth. I was standing on the sideline with a pint of Foster's and a silk cut purple. And he said, "Do you want to play?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I played, scored 3 tries, and then that's when it kicked off.
Wow. Your first big club, just to move on from there, it maybe took a few moves before you got to London Irish, but who was before that?
Well, that was it. So I'd gone down to watch a friend of mine play at Kingston Rugby Club.
Okay.
I was 17, and it was a junior club. Their clubhouse was a porter cabin that smelt of foxwee, and basically, honestly, this is true. And we used to play against London Irish and Wasps and Harlequins and Blackheath, all these big clubs over here, and we used to beat them all, even though we were a little tin pot junior club. And then a guy called Bosco McCauliffe from London Irish rang me up to go and play in the Under-21s Festival for London Irish, which I did. The following season, I played 6 months in the 21s and then 4.5 years in the first team.
Wow. And I was just going to say one more, that you obviously, I suppose Clive Woodward is such a huge name. That's where you would have come across him first in at the latter stages of your London Irish career. Is that right?
That's right. So I had 3 real coaches at London Irish. First was Hicker Reid, the All Black hooker, who had a different way of doing things. So there wasn't much tactics or technique. He just basically got beaten up for 2 days, 2 days a week, play at the weekend if you're still fit. Clive came and joined the club. He was just starting on his coaching career. And actually he asked me to go and play for England. And I said, listen, Clive, with the greatest respect, I was born in England, but I've no English blood in my family. I don't want to play for England. I want to play for Ireland. And fair play to Clive. He picked up the phone, rang the IRFU and said, you've got to pick this kid. He wants to play for Ireland. And that was it. And he carried on doing that. And I carried on playing well. Unfortunately, I was lucky enough to get selected. And I do owe a debt of gratitude and thanks to Clive for his efforts. He was a very interesting coach. He'd have the forwards go off and beat each other senseless over in a field, and we'd start talking about unbelievable moves that we're going to do in a match.
I love that.
Throwing the ball up in the air, overhead bicycle kick, and floating around with hoods and what have you. He was a thought leader. Let's just say that.
Yeah, wow. One of the privileges of being a back. I'd have fitted in well into that team. So obviously you're London Irish. I asked you this question yesterday. You did come from amateur to professional. You went into a hell of a Wasps setup. Quick one for you, actually. Did you cross paths with Peter Bracken at Wasps at all? Was he there around that time? He's a cousin of mine.
Is he?
Yeah, no, Brack's crazy man.
He is a crazy man. Didn't he go into wrestling?
Honestly, it's hard to keep up what Brax does. He has this thing on the internet now called Peter Tries, and I said to see him wrestle a cow, I think, but he's a wild man.
Yeah. No, he was driving around in his car, and he's the scrum doctor, and then then he took up wrestling for a while, which was a throwback to Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and the rest of the lads.
Electric cars is what he seems to be into now. He's mad for an electric car.
Yep. Well, hopefully he's lost a few pounds. Otherwise, that would go about 2 miles. So he's not getting very far.
He would still back down in the Wasps front row.
Exactly. No, Brax was a little bit after me. So when the game turned professional, I was at London Irish, signed a contract, and actually I think I was the first player transferred where a transfer fee was paid. So Wasps paid London Irish to get me over because I think Tui Gamala was going to Newcastle. And clearly the number 12 shirt, they'd bought some 42-inch shorts, so they needed someone of the larger caliber to go and fill those. So I moved over to Wasps and obviously another great side. I mean, London Irish is a fantastic side, a brilliant club, and it's a shame what's happened to them, and hopefully they'll come back. I mean, similarly with Wasps, great pedigree, great heritage. The side I joined, we won cups, we won leagues, surrounded by internationals, which only brings on your game. I remember turning up for the first training session with Wasps at Harrow School, and they're all doing their weights and they're pushing around, and you can hear them roaring, the smell of testosterone and sweat and what have you. I was downstairs doing the bleep test. I think I got to level 7, which normally would be an open top bus for me. Michael, that would be a warm up for you. And then all the players are looking down, and Lawrence Delalio, who's a good friend now still, just looking down saying, who on earth have we signed here? Look at the state.
You mentioned a transfer fee. Was that made known to the public back then, or was that kind of under the table stuff? Just out of curiosity, I can't recall.
I don't know. I mean, I know that it was the highest transfer fee ever paid for the only reason that it was the first. It could have been a $5 and a packet of Twiglets. I don't know, but there was definitely a fee paid. So I had 5 good years. I had 5 good years at Wasps, and then obviously moved on to join the mighty Munster.
Well, I'm going to stay at Wasps for a minute because I think you would have crossed paths with Delalio, Simon Shaw, maybe Matt Dawson or Andy Gummersall. I can't remember who the 9 was. Probably Alex King, Josh Lucy. You hell of a team there, and obviously you had a lot of success. I obviously started following them massively once Peter Bracken went there. But which of those guys were the best on a night out?
Sure. Well, as it's probably been well publicised, Lawrence is no stranger to a night out.
Very well publicised.
His mum, Eileen, God rest her, she came out with a fantastic phrase, which was, "You can always catch up on a good night's sleep, never a good night out." So it was always let's go, let's have that attitude. So Law will be at the charge. We all were, to be honest with you, because it's in a professional environment, in any sporting environment. And Michael, you'll know this. Team bonding is essential, and we took that to the nth degree, really. And I think one of the best. We had a Canadian fullback called Gareth Rees, who once came back, and we had a sweepstake on how heavy Gareth would be coming back from the summer break. So as a number 10, he came back at 116.5 kilos, which was carrying a bit of conditioning. It was back then anyway. It's amateur nowadays in comparison to where I am. But and we had a 70s night, and he'd forgotten his clothing, so he went into the storeroom and came out wearing the Wasps mascot outfit. And he just said, "Yeah, I'm a 70s Wasp," and off he went. He got absolutely paralytic in that outfit. But no, they were good lads. I mean, every club's got a lot of things, and loose lips sink ships. You're not allowed to talk about what goes on when you're out and about with the boys. But needless to say, we enjoyed ourselves.
I bet, and I'm sure that didn't change when you headed across there to see to Munster. But could you tell me a little bit how that transfer comes around at that stage, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd just been selected for the Lions. I'd been offered an extension contract at Wasps, but I'd made my debut for Ireland in '96, actually at a peace international, which was a non-capped international. So I played in that, scored in that game. Didn't go so well in the November in my first test when we played Western Samoa. They've had a half decent side themselves, but we should still be putting those away. But we lost that game, and then roll it forward 4 years. We've suddenly come from being an average to mediocre team to beginning to put some results together. And I think the crop of young players that came through, such as Peter Stringer, Ronan O'Gara, young Brian O'Driscoll, Shane Horgan, Dennis Hickey, et al., let alone to mention the forwards, put us in a good stead, and we started on a winning mentality. And I wanted to test myself with and against the best in Europe. Wasps were one of the best sides in Europe, but at the same time, Munster were the best, in my opinion. And if I had an opportunity to come and play, and my mother was devastated, by the way, being from Wexford, that I went to join Munster, but she got over it. And obviously all the guys I used to hang around with in the Ireland camp were all of the Munster forwards. So Peter Clarsey and Heath Wood and Mick Galway, Anthony Foley, blessed him. Yeah, big strong characters, big strong men, and yeah, we had a great time of technical teaching, shall we say, in the evenings, where we used to assemble as a group and go and find somewhere quiet that we could hone our skills.
Very good.
Wow, that actually was a team of serious characters, and I imagine you honed those skills very well. Was Leinster ever on the cards for you, Rob? Did they ever approach you?
No, actually, but I did play. I think I played once, twice for Leinster when I was coming back from injury. I think I played against the Blue Bulls in Argentina A up in Donnybrook. I mean, Leinster are the benchmark now for most teams. They've got an unbelievable conveyor belt of talent coming through, and to be honest with you, as long as that's positive for Irish rugby, fantastic. I think Ulster are relatively strong, Connacht are as strong as they've ever been, and Munster just need to find a little bit of belief. There's good players and there's fantastic support down there. So, but as long as the four provinces are strong, then I'm relatively happy who's challenging at the top table. Obviously, I wish they were wearing a red jersey.
I want to go back to your own Munster career in a second, but I do actually, just since you brought up today's game, you mentioned to me yesterday you don't think there's enough money in the game. I would say probably Leinster are going into this year as weak as they've gone into any season. I know they've a strong, the strong 23, but underneath that, I would say, because they've had to, with the new the internal contract system at Ireland, they've had to let some players go like Frawley, Will Connors. Obviously, Ulster are doing okay. Connacht look like they've done great business, and Munster again, I don't think they've done enough business. So just on the state of the current game, as an Irishman heading towards the 2027 World Cup, I'm not sure it's in the strongest position it's been, but I do have to say I have great faith in Andy Farrell. But just on the club game, where do you see it from an Irish perspective at the moment, Rob?
You've still got the provinces, as I say, competing in the URC. Obviously, and in the Heineken Cup. Now, be that 1, 2, 3, 4 of the clubs or just one, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we'd rather everyone gets through to the latter stage of the competitions and then actually starts picking up the silverware. But I think looking at the Leinster squad particularly, and just saying that they're in really bad shape, is because you've had a look at the Galacticos for the last 10 years with them. It was like Munster in the early 2000s. So there was a bit of dominance there, etc. And people were expecting and anticipating that success. And if it doesn't come, then it's almost what on earth is happening? We must be on a decline. But if you look at the players that the provinces are producing and the performances that they're beginning to put together, having a squad that is reaching a certain level of experience. I'm not going to say age because age is only a number.
I agree.
And there was that 59-year-old Japanese fella that scored in the J League the other day. So if he can do it, anyone can do it at any age. But when you've got a more experienced team and you need to blood and bring in some youth and experience, I think that transition is hard with any team. I mean, you've mentioned the World Cup next year. I mean, I have everything crossed and facing Mecca that actually we're going to get past the quarterfinals next year. I could definitely see Ireland getting to the final. Dependent on form and injuries, but the players are there, the coaching staff is there, the ability is there, and hopefully the belief will be again by the time that comes around.
Same. Sorry. Look, I obviously came up, like I've been a rugby nose all my life, so I remember you coming through. I remember when we had good times, bad times, but obviously you get used to success, and we get used to Ireland, sitting at the top table, and they have done for a while. They've probably dropped to fourth in the world now, but Leinster the same, and but now they're competing against these fringe teams with these massive budgets, I suppose. And when I see maybe them having to lose some quality players and their depth dropping a little, it just worries me slightly. As I said, it's just, you get spoiled. We've got spoiled for the last while. Will Leinster compete at the top table again this year? I think they will. I thought they might get in one or two signings, but I was just curious for your take on that. And as you said, fingers crossed we do. I think we can get to a final as well. So hopefully that'll go well. Back to your own time in Munster. You won the...
By the way, Michael's just sent me something telepathically, just saying, Mark, stop being a Leinster nose and move on.
I was just going back to Munster about your 2006 triumph when I was in the front row at that game, Rob. I drank heavily for 5 days, and that was incredible. I was just curious about what was your celebrations like when you finally got over the line in 2006. How many days?
To be honest with you, I had the best seat in the house. I was on the bench and didn't come on, so I'm sitting down, and the hands were more raw than the lungs. But no, having gone so close in 99, 2002, and then finally getting the monkey off the back in 2006, it's a huge sigh of relief. And you could see that because the team went on then to win it again in 08. So just being able to do it once and then the belief to do it again. And Stringer's try over in the corner around Sorelli Bobo was absolutely outstanding. I think Trevor Holstead's try in the first half, brilliant. But the team was just brilliant. And there were leaders across the park. And Alan Quinlan and Dennis Leamy, David Wallace, Anthony Foley. I mean, these back row players just dominated. And to be fair, there were 76,000 people in the stadium at that stage, and 74,500 of them were Munster fans. And then there were thousands more in the street outside, thousands watching it on O'Connell Street and down in Cork as well. And it's just, the support was overwhelming. And the 16th man that the support has been, I mean, never has it been more to the fore than when we came back at about 2:00 in the morning, I think it was, 2:00, 2:30. And we flew back into Shannon, and the whole place is just swarming. There must have been 25,000 people there to welcome us home. And it was just incredible. And yeah, I mean, you said that you went on the lash for 5 days. That is pretty amateur compared to we had one game left. I think we were either playing Glasgow or Cardiff, I think it was, on the Saturday. And so obviously we're out on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Declan Kidney calls us in for a team run on Friday morning. So we get down to Cork Con, line up on the field, everyone feeling very, very poorly, very sorry for ourselves. They set a scrum. Strings, who doesn't drink, is obviously fresh as a daisy. And he fires out the ball from the bottom of the scrum. First play. And it hit our fly half square in the face. Square in the face. Didn't even put his hand up. Square in the face. Everyone's on their hands and knees laughing. That's it, lads. Session's over. And off we went. And actually, we won the day by 30 points. So it didn't be like that. Just different. But
just goes to show you don't need to train. You don't need to train, but
absolutely
amazing scenes, amazing times. I remember the Red Army. It was massive, and I suppose Munster exploded on the back of that, really. And it was a great time up over the border in Connacht. But obviously, you support the good teams. But that was spectacular. The try for me was a standout in the game. But you mentioned the names there on that. It's the powerhouse of the names, and I suppose you think Axel Foley got to be good to him now at this stage. the real leader, I think. But who were the in every dressing room, I suppose you have a different combination of players. You have people who just want to go and just keep their head down and do their own thing. And then you have the forceful ones who will raise the standard. And I'm thinking Paul O'Connell here, but is there any player there that someone like me would miss that you could tell me, he was a standard setter on the pitch, off the pitch, in the dressing room? Because we can all kind of guess the roles of the typical players, but was there anyone there that stands out for you as a real leader?
Well, the thing that made that Munster team so competitive, first and foremost, we challenged each other every day. I mean, training was harder than playing. It really was. I mean, the amount of stitches and fights and what have you had during training, because everyone was pushing ourselves to be as good as we could possibly be. And if you're not in the starting 15, you're kind of a bit miffed, a bit peeved as you're not playing. So, but still supportive. But when you get an opportunity in training to slot someone in the same position as yourself, you absolutely go for it. But it was self-governing, and Declan Kidney and Alan Gaffney definitely brought that in as coaches. So they would give us a template, but they can't play the game for us on the field. So there'd be leaders across the paddock. And you've mentioned a few, and I mentioned it earlier on, from transitioning from old guard to new. So when you're looking at an eye joiner, you've got Peter Clohessy, you've got Mick Galway, you've got Keith Wood in there. Okay, you've got this talented, experienced people that are pushing the baton on, and then you've got new guys coming through. Strings and Rog, we've mentioned. Paul O'Connell, you've just mentioned there. Donica O'Callaghan, Leamy Wally, John Hayes, Marcus Horan was always at the fore, and Frankie Sheehan and Jerry Flannel. You could name every single person in that team, and everyone would have something to say. And I think Jimmy Williams was a huge addition to the squad when he joined. We joined on the same night. We joined on the same night, actually. It was an evening match at Toulon Park, and the two of us were on the sideline, and we were going to get introduced at half-time, and the lads come running in. Commentator over the tannoy, ladies and gentlemen, a big Toulon Park welcome to our two new signings for the year, Jim Williams and Rob Henderson. And the crowd erupts, and there's a great Toulon Park roar. And out onto the park comes Jim in a cast and me on crutches.
Okay.
So that kind of softened and dampened the cough a little bit. But it was that self-governance piece, Michael, to be honest with you. And you've probably played in teams that similar to that you get given an idea, but then it's up to you to grab hold of it and to drive the bus.
Yeah, and just I know Marcus wants to come in, but you got to give credit to Declan Kidney and the staff there, to identify that it's not every group of players you can give that control to, but they read the room well there, and between the young guard and the old guard, it was the wise thing to do to let you off the hook, basically, and see where you take it. So credit goes to that.
Without question.
Oh no! I was listening. That's a very good.
And actually, you could tell the quality and the leadership of players. If you remember the quarter final, and I've got to mention Axel for this one. The quarter final against Biarritz, I think it was, at Toulon Park, and beforehand, Domino's Pizza in Limerick had said that if anyone scores a hat trick, you get free pizza for life. And God love him, Axel scored a hat trick within 8 minutes.
Wow.
He must have liked Domino's, did he?
100%. And there was about 14 fake accounts set up around the problem.
Brilliant. That is hilarious.
Yeah, Jim Williams, actually, you mentioned there, he was a hell of a signing. Actually, that was an unbelievable squad you had with Munster at that time. And you mentioned my Leinster noseness. I am an Irish rugby fan. I love all the provinces, which is weird. I support them all. So
listen to him now, Michael.
Yeah.
I mean?
I'm not scrambling. Before I go to my next question, I'm also going to say, right, I've said this 5 times already. Like, I represent the 99.99% who didn't play at the top level but wanted to. You played at the top, Rob. You played at the top, Michael. You said about team bonding being very important at the highest level. It's very important at every level. Like, no matter what level you play at, it's the best thing about sport. It's why a lot of us play sport. You were one of my heroes, Rob, because I knew your skills off the field, and I reckon I could have matched them. But that's what rugby was about. Like, you create and football. You create friends for life through sport. And whether you're a professional athlete or you're just playing a Sunday league game, it is all about the crack you have after, the memories you create after, and whether you're playing in Cardiff or in front of 10 people in Craigs, it's the same thing. So I just want to say I think it's important across all levels. And as I said, you represent the 1%, I represent the 99%, but sport brings everyone together. Now, before we go into your Lions and then we'll go into business, what was your highlight playing for Ireland, Rob? Again, I did look up your highlights last night. I said I did no research. I started looking them up again. I remember the ladder, but you had some incredible moments for Ireland. So for you, what would have been the highlight across your Irish career?
Well, obviously getting selected for your first match, it was, as I mentioned, it was a non-cap international. It was the Peace International at Lansdowne Road in April '96. It's everyone's dream to play for your country, and then the actual first test cap is obviously very special. You learn a lot more about I learn a lot more about myself and the team and what have you through defeat rather than victory. And I think one thing that was a bit of a seminal moment and changed a lot of people's mindset was in 1998. We went over to Paris to play France in '98, and the French press were printing the top 10 biggest defeats in world rugby in the papers. I mean, this was a superb French side against ourselves, and we were struggling. I think we won the wooden spoon that year. It's a trophy, lads. It's a trophy. But 1998, we were staying at the Palace in Versailles, and Warren Gatland had only just come on, and he had been coaching Buccaneers, been coaching Connacht, and he took over from Brian Ashton, I think. And he'd put a note in the press saying, Warren Gatland, coach of the Ireland team, here's the fax number, here's where we're staying, please send us your messages. So in that morning, we get to the team room outside, and Warren says, I'm not saying anything today, just go in there. So we open the doors, and from floor to floor, wall to wall, floor to ceiling, there were just faxes from all around the world of youngsters, middle-aged, elderly, or experienced people, just wishing us luck and telling us that they were behind us. I mean, thousands of faxes came through, and we walked out of that room 10 foot tall, and he didn't say anything, didn't have to say anything. We get on the bus, we get there, and with a few minutes to go, we're still winning. And Ireland hadn't won in France since 1972 in Stade Colombes, never won in Parc des Princes. And unfortunately, we just ran out of petrol at the end, and there was a bit of a mistake, and France won 1915, I think 1914, whatever it was. But we knew that we could compete with the best. And then roll that forward, and this gets to your question, what were your favourite memories? There were two really, the two standouts for me were in 2000, going over there with a young Brian O'Driscoll and being in the centre with him and him scoring a hat-trick, and us finally beating France in Paris.
Yeah.
Myself and himself had some night ending up in a karaoke cafe till about 5:30 in the morning. That was a great evening. So that would be one, beating France in Paris, and for a team and a nation. On a personal perspective, in 2001, I think it was, going over to play Italy in Stadio Flaminio, meeting Pope John Paul II the day before, and then scoring a hat-trick the day after. That was quite cool as well. Nice. And outside of that, my first drop goal for Isha Seconds on a back pitch on a Tuesday night, which went over like a dying swan. There you go. There's the three.
They all count.
Oh, you are a character. I spotted some blonde hair as well. I had forgot about the blonde hair back in the day. It's very impressive since you were giving my lid such a stick. We move on to then 2001, right?
Are there any questions from your lid, by the way?
What?
Is there any questions from your lid? Because it must have a life of its own.
Well played. Oh, you are very funny. I wasn't quite prepared for you, but anyways, look, go on. We'll go back to 2001. I remember this Lions tour very well, and I remember you got selected. I wasn't sure you'd be in the test reckoning, even though your form was good. But by God, did you get into the test reckoning, and you had a hell of a tour. So memories of that on the field first.
Well, getting selected for the Lions is obviously the pinnacle of the Northern Hemisphere if you're England, Ireland, Scotland or Welsh, and I think it's that whole thing about four teams that have been beating each other up at club and international level for 4 years, and then trying to take on the best in the world in the back garden. I think it's set up to fail from the start. It really is, and any Lions team that go on and win a series have done well. They really have. I mean, we've had a bit of success recently against Australia a couple of times. Obviously struggled, did really well against New Zealand with the draw recently. But in 01, coming off the back of the lads beating South Africa in 97, and with the side that they'd pulled together, even though we were taking on the world champions, we were taking on the Tri-Nations champions at home, we had a huge belief that we could go over there and win. And I think in the first test in Brisbane, which was an incredible match. It really was to be part of. And we showed what we could do as a team. And a young Jason Robinson, who I think sidestepped, was it Williams? He sidestepped in about a 2-foot space and then scored. I mean, you've got Rob Howley, you've got Johnny Wilkinson, Brian O'Driscoll, you've got Daffyd James, Matt Perry. Up front, you've got Martin Johnson, you've got Richard Hill, who's arguably one of the best back rowers ever. You've got quality across the paddock, and yeah, it was just a shame that we ran out of a little bit of petrol. We had a few injuries, but the first 3 weeks of that were the best stag do I've ever been on. I can say it. I can say it now because it's 25 years later. But I remember coming back to the hotel one night, myself and another player who will remain nameless. We came back at about 9:15 in the morning. Haven't been out all night on the lash. And as we're walking in, the guys are going out to get on a coach to go to a corporate golf thing.
Wow.
And one of the management turns around and says, "Where have you two been?" "I've just been out for a walk on the beach. We're staying over with Manny at the time." We ran upstairs, quick cup of coffee, changed your polo shirt, down onto the coach, off to the golf. Couldn't see the ball. We said to the two lads we were playing with, "Listen, with the greatest respect, should we stop after 9 and have a few pints?" And they were delighted with that as well. But no, it's the Lions is the pinnacle, and the biggest regret that I have is the fact we didn't win that series because we were good enough to.
Yeah.
You talk about the 3-week stag do, but I guess it has to be that way because just to break down the barriers of the international, like you're literally boxing the heads of each other or doing whatever you can through the 5-6 nations. Before that, year in, year out, the club scene as well. You got to break down those barriers to bring the team together when you're away like that. And the 3-week stag do is the best way, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you bond when you're given a bit of space and a bit of scope and a bit of time to relax, and then you can actually start asking people about who they are and what they like and what they do and the families and all the rest of it. Because once you understand what makes a person tick, then you can play into that as a teammate, as a colleague, as a friend, and those friendships that are made there are for life. They really are. And that's whether you were there for the whole tour, part of the tour, or what have you. I remember in 97, I think Will Greenwood was the only uncapped player in that squad, and he swallowed his tongue on the field. Fortunately, they resuscitated him. He had to leave, and he was arguably going to be in the test side. In 01, he picked up a niggle, but after the first test, and this is what rugby is about to me, and this is what teamwork is, and this is what the Lion stands for. After the first test, he'd come in, he's given everyone massive hugs and et cetera, and I gave him my jersey and I said, "Listen, Will, you missed out 4 years ago. You've not played today, but if anyone deserves a Lions jersey, it's you." So I gave him my Lions jersey because that's, I think, what sport is about, is camaraderie is about. And I actually spoke to his brother 2 days ago, and he still hasn't forgotten that moment.
Wow. That's beautiful. Yeah, fair play. I was just thinking, it's 25 years. Any Silver Jubilee talks of a meetup?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of the lads have let themselves go. They're out of shape now, so I don't really, want to hang around with them. I mean, if they go and do a bit of training, then maybe.
Not able for 3 weeks of a stag do anymore, I'd say. Maybe some are, maybe some aren't.
I'd probably make 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
But no, we bizarrely, I see more rugby players now that have stopped playing than when I played, because when I was playing the game and it was professional, it was like a job. Even though they're great mates and what have you, I had other friends outside which keep you grounded. So some of my friends are unemployed, some are builders, painters, whatever. Some reasonably well off in business, but I always used to steer away from hanging around with rugby players. Whereas now, as we're getting older, we're a little bit more mature, and you can actually look back and talk about it, because humility is a big thing in sport as well. And I very, very rarely talk about my career ever and haven't. But now I'm not embarrassed to talk about it if someone asks me a question. So I can look back fondly and discuss things about what went right, what went wrong, how I could have been better, who was fantastic and what have you. And just, it's a lovely volume that I've got on the shelf that I can now take off and regurgitate and put back and not have any shame about it.
Yeah, and to be fair, you did have an incredible career, and that was actually some squad in 2001. It was a shame that you just couldn't get quite over the line in the third test. Before we move into business, finally, you finished off in Toulon. What was that like? What was that like?
It was. I mean, I can tell you've been practicing your questions, Mark, because that's a real interviewer's question.
Hey, I was listening to Joe Malloy.
Let me play this back to you, right? Mark, you've just won 84 million on the Euro Millions. What was that like?
I have no comment. I won't be able to clip this out either. Never mind. What
do you think, you clown? It was fantastic.
I thought it was unreal. Yeah.
Down in France.
I can't release.
So you spent time in France too, Ken Rugby, didn't you?
I did, but I can't release this episode now. You've just absolutely, damn it. Right. Michael, will you ask him about business and I'll stay quiet for 2 minutes?
Shall we tell you about France or not?
Yeah, do, because it's incredible down there.
So I was coming to the end of my career and with Munster after we won the trophy in 06. Contract coming to an end. I was going to retire and become director of rugby at Gary Owen, actually. Nice. Because I loved my time in Limerick. I thought Limerick was a fantastic place. We lived in Castleconnell for a while, then Anacotti, and we got some great friends there still. Now, setting up the coaching staff and organising gym equipment and kit and stash for the boys. And then suddenly I get this phone call come through from a French-sounding chap. He said, "Hello, Rob, it's Laurent from Toulon. Would you like to play for us?" And I said, "Leave it off, Jimmy." And I put the phone down because I thought it was one of the lads taking the piss. So anyway, the phone rings again. He rings me back, "Don't put the phone down. It's Laurent from Toulon." Started talking about Murad Bourgelel having bought the club. And I said, "You have to call me back in 10 minutes. I need to speak to my wife." So she shouted upstairs to the long-suffering Angie. I said, "Are we going to go down to Toulon?" "Yeah, love, tell him we'll go down for this." Fella rings back. I give him a number, and the bloke says, "That's no problem. We book your flights tomorrow." And you only think, "Oh, Jesus. Oh, I should have asked for so much more."
Yeah.
But we went down to Toulon, and Murad Bourgelel had just bought the club. And he must have sat down with an agent and bought and gone through the listing, not knowing who was who, because he bought like 10 backs and 2 forwards. So we had an all international back line, and our forwards they didn't have Etzebeth. They didn't have all the big names, Shawsey and all those. They didn't have the internationals up front. So winning the ball was quite difficult, but when we got the ball, we scored. And when you're in the second division in France and you're playing, you've got Norman Jordan, who's a Springbok, Yann Delay, who's the French out half. You had myself and Tana Rumanga in the centre. You had Dan Luger on one wing, Gonzalo Quesada at fullback, and a guy called Martin Jagricic as the backing winger on the other. With a proper back line. And yeah, we were down there for a while. A lovely house overlooking the Med. I learned the language. Yeah, I went native. I was like Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves.
Cool.
And I knew that I'd cracked it. And this isn't being facetious or anything, but I knew I'd cracked it when the pump in the swimming pool we had broke, and I had to pick up the golden pages, find someone, ring them, tell them what was wrong, and get them round. I knew that I'd kind of cracked it at that point.
Fantastic.
But now don't ask me. That was 17 years ago, and Jesus, no, it was 20 years ago. And I'd now sound like the French policeman in Hello, Hello.
Yeah, what a show. That, we mightn't go there now, but that picking up the yellow pages, that brings me back to something I read about you in your time way back when, maybe in Wasps, and maybe we'll go there just for a minute, but you were on the ball at that stage. You identified that you needed to get a little bit of one-on-one or extra work done to go up through the gears, and I was reading how you found a local sprint coach to do some extra work with.
Absolutely right, Michael. I'd started beginning to take the game more professionally. As Mark alluded to earlier, I do enjoy the social side of life. I think we're a long time dead, so enjoy it while you're here. And it probably took me a wake up call to do something, and that happened in '99. I was playing for Ireland. I was playing club rugby, carving up, scoring tries for fun, playing well for Ireland. One man of the match in a couple of matches in the lead up to the '99 World Cup. The squad got announced, and I got dropped, and I was devastated, absolutely devastated. But then on reflection, you look at it and you think, well, you could actually have done a lot more to make sure that you put yourself in the best position possible. So I picked up the Yellow Pages. I found a sprint coach called Warren Loughlin. I mean, I could have carried on doing what I was doing and been a really good club player, part-time international, and enjoyed my career still. But I decided I wanted to challenge myself and test myself. So I got myself a personal trainer out of the phone book. And with Warren, I trained 4 times a day, 5 times a week. I got down to 11% body fat, which is probably my chin nowadays, and was in the shape of my life. Strong, fit, quick, playing really well, and that ultimately allowed me and enabled me to play and perform well when I did get the selection for the Lions. It was Donald Lenihan in '99 as the Ireland manager who rang me and told me I wasn't going to the World Cup. And in 2001, he rang me again, and he said when they were doing the final cut, because there's a lot of players cut, and the final cut, Donald rang me up, and I'll never forget the call. He said, "Hendo, I called you in '99 with bad news. I'm calling you with good news this time round. You're in." I said, "Thanks, Donald. I've got to go for a pint," and off I went. So you're 100% correct, and I think that's most athletes when they look at it, unless you are. No one can be 100% focused on what they're trying to achieve, but unless you know that you've given it your all and you've given it everything, then you should have no qualms and no regrets and no blame either. So I don't blame anyone. I had a fantastic career, and at that point I challenged myself and I managed to see what sort of player I was.
Yeah, I just think it's a great story. You're as well to go all in as 100% is. If you're doing 90%, you're as well to go all in and see where it takes you. So I really like that story. I could relate to that story. And when you mentioned the French, the Yellow Pages, it came back to me. But I suppose just to move it on then, and like you think, going from amateur into professional, and all of a sudden, the legs are heavy and the playing days are over, and it's that transition then into the real world, the working life world. There's many decades to live ahead. Can you give us a bit of insight as to how do you get your head around that, or where do you go and start? Is it connections you've built up in your latter years playing, or what are the steps? What were your steps in getting into that post rugby career?
I suppose I was slightly prepared because I'd worked for 4 years when the game was amateur. Then the game turned professional, etc., etc. There wasn't a lot of money, the big money that's being bandied about today. So you have to go back to work, and I think that the problem with a lot of sports people, whether it's rugby, whether it's soccer, whatever sport it is, when that day comes, and it does come for us all, when that day comes and you can't do at the same level that you did before, and you have to walk another path. The ability to be able to close that chapter, put it on the bookshelf, and then get a new manual out and say, right, page 1, what am I up to now? And then start writing a new story is really, really difficult, because letting go of the teamwork and the camaraderie and the unity and the support network that you had, and then you find yourself isolated, is tough for people to come to terms with, and that can be a real struggle. But I think all sports are getting better at managing that transition now. And for me, I parked it to one side. I'm married. I've got one child. I've got bills going out the door. You can't sit on your hands and wallow in past glories and failures. So you go into the corporate world, and I was always in sales. So for 20 years, starting as a mortgage broker, bond broker, a commercial director for a recruitment business, chief commercial officer for a development management and a software business, leaning into the skill sets I'd learned through rugby, but also the people I'd met along the way on my journey. Because if you've got some peers and some people that you respect and trust that are older and they've already gone down that route, and you can ask them for advice as opposed to always asking for a handout, then that's really essential. And the people I met when I was at London Irish are still my friends now. So I think that really helps, all walks of life. And rugby attracts everyone nowadays. So it doesn't matter whether you're a builder, whether you're a baggage handler, whether you're a financer, whether you're a lawyer, whatever. So that game has really opened up. And actually, I was my last job. I was the CCO for development management in a software business. And unfortunately, 2 years ago, my two brothers passed away. And that gives you a reality check. And you sit there thinking, I'm 53, I'm married, I've got kids, I love my family. I think I need to get that work-life balance right. So I decided to set up my own consultancy business, as Mark mentioned right at the start. And I set up Avesco. The reason I called it Avesco, by the way, my two brothers were called Steve and Andrew. My wife's twin sister, who unfortunately passed, was called Vicky. And I actually put all three names into ChatGPT and said, give me a corporate name that does the cap to those three. And it spat out Avesco. And I said, that's perfect. That'll do. So that's why I called the business that name. And what we've done is we've just built an outsourced sales, marketing, finance and recruitment business. And we'll come in for a 6-month, 12-month project with organizations, help them get to a certain level, either SMEs or smaller businesses looking to grow, or new entrants to a marketplace. And 16 months later, there's now 9 of us in the business, and we're going from strength to strength. And the reason I'm on the podcast, and the reason that yourself, Michael, Mark, and his hair are on the podcast is Sporting Club Ireland. I've recently just joined, and tying that community, that friendship, that peer group together across sport and across business is the rationale for being here on this podcast.
Wow. You're very good at this, because you could say I might do no preparation, but you also answer half the questions I had planned. So you're not helping me.
I can tell you, Mark, I have done zero preparation.
Oh, I'm like, no, we're just happy you're here. Right. I want to ask 2 questions, but I do want to ask the first one, right? Because this is out of personal interest, because I've been in sales all my life as well. I'm just curious, right? I always wondered, if I was Mark Brandon, the Irish International, British and Irish line, would it be easier to open doors? So when you come into, I suppose, the corporate world first, Rob, and maybe you're doing some cold calls, you're trying to make, connections. Was it easier that you had just played 3 tests with Lions a couple of years ago, that you played for Ireland? Did it make it any easier, or was it still just as hard being, I suppose you're coming into something new?
It can be easy, and it's a double-edged blade, to be honest with you, because of course, when you've been a sports person, whatever sport it is, or if you've been in the camera lens just for that brief amount of time that I was, obviously people want to talk to you, but they also want to talk to you about what you did rugby wise, and trying to fashion a new persona and a new career in whatever sector you are, and getting people to focus on that. I want to talk to you about one thing, you want to talk to me about something completely different.
Yeah.
So actually getting that credibility piece right at the start is quite difficult. So talking to people is one thing, but actually talking about the relevance of why you're having that conversation is quite difficult. But I think I'm a firm believer of circles of competence. So when I first started and anyone was asking me a question, if I didn't know, I'd tell them I don't know. Or I'd ask the question if someone was trying to teach me, just so I'd understand and get a little bit more knowledge and get a bit more credibility around all the facets that I was looking to achieve. So, and having done that, and done it in different sectors as well. So from a mortgage broking perspective, when you're looking for someone to help someone find their future home for themselves and their family, which is actually quite cool when you think about it, rather than just it's another notch on the board, all the way through to bond broking, which is, do you want to buy this, yes or no? All the way through to software sales, all the way through to professional service sales. They're all different. They've all got different skill sets and different ways of operating. But if I was going to say anything to anyone, because individuals are like fingerprints, everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone's different, right? So everyone will find their own path and everyone will find their own methodology. But just be true to yourself, because if you can look at yourself in the mirror every morning and know that you haven't plumosed yourself or anyone else. Well, there's two things looking in the mirror, obviously, with yourself, Mark. You find that you get a bit more honesty with yourself and honesty and trust from the people that you're talking to on a daily basis.
Rob, we're going to keep you on the call at the end to open up ChatGPT, because we need to get a name for this lid. We'll put a few words in and see what we can come up with for Mark's lid. Can I ask, you were a new member of the sporting club. Can I ask what prompted you to join? What did you see in it, the different features, or what are you looking to get out of it?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was actually inspired by another organisation called the Carbine Club. The Carbine Club set up in Australia 60 years ago. Very jogged my memory, the Carbine Club. I've known Ian Stafford for a long, long time. I was at an event with the Carbine Club, which is, again, based around sport. It's based around business. It's based about connectivity and getting good people together. Because if you get as many good people together as you can, then there's more chance of good things happening. Now, be that commercially, be that growth-wise, be that information, education-wise, it doesn't matter, because we're always learning. So, having done something for them, I saw something from Ian again on LinkedIn actually, and thought, you know what, I'm going to reach out. I've been 16 months with my new business, and I'm sure there must be like-minded individuals like me out there that would like a forum, a place to meet and chat and talk about the good, the bad, the indifferent. And I rang Ian and I met him and joined immediately. Yeah, so it was a no-brainer.
Brilliant. And I know you're quite new to the organization, as far as I know, and I suppose the English side of things is up and running, and there's a lot of events in the pipeline already. And I know Mark here on this side of the water is working hard. There's events in place as well, and it's kind of it's new over here. But I'm just looking from the outside in. But the scale of it for me is what I'm attracted to. The network of people across Ireland, the UK, and even further afield as a move to the Middle East and so on. I think it's the power of bringing people together. And like you said, that the more, I suppose, the more kind of sharp people you have in one room and there for the same reasons, to bounce ideas off each other and to work with each other, I think only good things can come out of that.
100%, Michael. And to be honest with you, you guys are in a great spot with the sport. And I'm just going to call it the sporting club, because whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Ireland, it makes no difference, whether you're in Scotland, what have you. But one thing that you guys have over everybody is the diaspora that's happened over the last 180 years, right? Because there is a lot of connectivity with other continents, with other countries, etc. And I've no doubt that once you guys get your platform stabilized and people know about what you're doing and the benefits of being part of that club, then I'm sure you'll grow and then actually get more of a global presence as well. So I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Rob. And that was the reason I reached out to you last week. I wanted to find out more about Avesco. Obviously, I haven't actually met you in person yet. I hope to do that soon, but you don't necessarily have to meet an event. We can talk like this online. So if I find out who Rob wants to meet, I'm hoping to make some good introductions, and a man as well connected as him, I'm hoping he can do the same. So, it can work both ways. Do you want to give Avesco a plug?
I'm glad you asked me that question, Mark, because 16 months ago when I formed Avesco, we were predominantly an outsourced sales and business development function. We've subsequently brought in a recruitment specialist, a marketing specialist, and finance specialist. And in fact, there's 9 of us in the business now. So a company can either dial up or dial down on 1, 2, 3, 4 of those service lines. And we'll step in, we'll do a project or a term-based piece of work. Almost like Nanny McPhee. If you need us but don't want us, we must stay. But if you want us but don't need us, we must go. So, and that's how we operate. And we've got a dozen customers that we're servicing at the moment. We don't want to be as large as the big 4. We'd like to service 20, 30 customers extremely well. in the personal touch. In a digital age where everything is AI focused, and everything can be done with ChatGPT, Claude AI, and all the other providers, etc., you still need that human interaction to be able to understand what you're absolutely trying to achieve. So, from an efficiency perspective, definitely use technology, but from a growth and a humane perspective, that's why we're here.
No, it's a very interesting concept, and I may not have done my research on you, but I did do my research on Avesco. I think it's a great business. You've obviously told me last week that you brought some great people in as well. So yeah, no, I definitely think it's exciting. I definitely think that I already have a couple of members that are interested in talking to you. So I wish you the very best with this. As I said, I think it's a class concept. I will try and improve my podcasting for when I get you on the next time. I will have some ChatGPT prepared questions, Rob Henderson, and I will fix my lid.
Yeah, or do what most guys do. Just have a selection of caps nearby so that you can just put one on.
Class. Michael, I know you left to one thing, but you're also involved now with the Wooden Spoon charity. Are you still involved with them?
Yeah. So I'm the honorary president of the Surrey branch of the Wooden Spoon. Obviously, Wooden Spoon charity set up after 1983 when the England team came to Dublin. It was set up by 8 lads that used to play golf, 4 Irish lads, 4 English lads. Played golf against each other. They're back in the kitchen. England have won the Wooden Spoon. One of the lads drags a wooden spoon out of the drawer in the kitchen, gives it to the English fellow as a memento. They went home, said, "What should we do with this?" Painted it, had a golf day, raised some money, and that was how the charity was born. And bringing opportunity and funding to children that desperately need it, and they've done that successfully for the last 43 years. Yeah. I've opened some sensory units for kids, and the difference it makes to their lives, the teachers and the parents and the wider families is immense. So I'm very proud to be part of that.
That's fantastic.
That is brilliant.
And it celebrates England winning Wooden Spoon as well. So there's loads of love.
There's a double bonus there. Listen, Rob, it's been brilliant. Couple of questions, quick fire ones at the end, just to kind of pick your brains. And I apart from that, we're good to go. If you were, it's a hard one, but the best player that you played with in your career.
Jesus, it's really, really difficult. I mean, I'd have to pick one in every single position. But if you look at my personal position, I'd swing it down to a top 4. 3 of them you'll heard of, one of them you won't. Okay. Brian O'Driscoll, obviously, Philippe Sella, obviously, Jerry Guscott, obviously, and there's another chap called Sean Burns who I used to play with at London Irish. He was so skillful, but he just ran like he was in treacle.
That can happen. That's brilliant. There's a fair selection there. And look at these questions. Some of them are going to have multiple answers, I feel. But if you were to nail down the one hardest opponent that you played with or played against,
Trevor Brennan. Easy.
There we go.
Easy. That man is concrete tough. Honestly, you could have a podcast just on him. I mean, you'd have to shoot him to stop him. He's just one of the characters which I don't think got the credit potentially that he deserved. He's certainly, I mean, he's still down in Toulouse now. He's been there 25 years. I went to Toulouse to watch the France-Ireland game this year with him, and he's like the Lord Mayor of the place. He really is. So they've taken them into him into their hearts, and he loves it down there. But as a player, he'd never take a backward step, but he'd be the first to come up and shake your hand afterwards, whether he'd won, lost, or drawn. So tough on the field, tough mentally, but just a massive heart and a great bloke. And I would have thought actually that he's exactly the type of guy that I'd have liked to see play with the Lions, because you need a bit of grit in there and a bit of quality. So
great stuff. And you've probably answered this already, but just one more of these for me. But your greatest day in rugby?
As I say, I've narrowed it down to 3. One of them was the only drop goal I ever tried in my life on the back pitch for Esher 2s against Cambridge University on a Tuesday night. Went over like a dying swan. Taking into account the first time I tried a drop goal, it hit my flanker on the shin and he was 30 yards away. So that one was never going over.
There's a skill in that itself, I think, Rob.
the Scud missile. So it would be for me personally, it would be in Paris in 2000.
Yeah.
With Brian scoring a hat trick and beating France in Paris for the first time in 28 years on my mum's 50th birthday. So it was just incredible.
Brilliant.
Wow. Well, Rob Henderson, you certainly have not disappointed, although you have given me my very first episode. I have to learn how to edit. Thank you. But really do appreciate your time. You're a man of many stories, and you've always been very popular. And even though you've slagged me for 60 minutes now, you're still a hero of mine. Thank you for your time. Look forward to meeting you. Michael, as always, thank you. And I'm sure people will enjoy most of this besides my questioning. Have a good day, everyone.